Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show, our special Tesla Roadster version of our podcasts. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning. Welcome, everybody.
So we have a capability here for me to pop up images, and I'm going to do that for you. And this is a Bring a Trailer Tesla Roadster that just finished a few days ago. And what we're finding is there are a lot of comments on these auctions and a lot of questions. So we've taken more time to actually answer some of these, including how do you get calculated amp hour capacity? Everybody asks, everybody wants it because that's how they can tell the health of the battery. And then oftentimes there are technical questions, comments, and anyway, one of the ones that I wanted to run by everybody here was some comments regarding the don't wait, fix it when it breaks
Yes.
type philosophy. The car, by the way, did not meet reserve. It got to $61,000. This was a Roadster that has an R80 pack, one of the original 2016, 2017 versions. And they seem to be going lower and lower on Bring a Trailer. But the comment here was from one of the viewers on Bring a Trailer was, thanks for being an OG Tesla Roadster owner. I love seeing that you've enjoyed it for 16 years. She was an original owner, the family was. Like the Vet, the 911 or Benz, this exterior interior trim is as classic as it gets. And then he goes on and he says, gents, I also love supporting my indie auto shops. But there's a lot of EV independent is what he means, shops that have spread a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubts, FUD, into keeping these OG Tesla Roadsters running. My motto is, don't fix it unless it's broken. And when it's broken, Tesla is still supporting this OG Roadster. A new remanufactured PEM with 24-month warranty is available at your local Tesla service center for about $3,500. $2,500 for the part and $1,000 for labor. Well, my first comment here is, please let us know where these PEMs are available because we will buy some.
Yes, absolutely.
That is one heck of a price. And everything that we're hearing from customers and Tesla is these are $8,500 to $10,000 PEMs. And they're in short supply these days. So that would be quite a deal. He also adds, this will also save you about $4,000 to $8,000 in shipping your car. Well, he didn't realize that that particular Roadster is at our service center. It's at EV Preserve. It's already here. So let's go back, though, to the philosophy of don't fix it unless it's broken. And how does that relate to a Tesla Roadster? Well, you can wait until your toaster, your microwave, or your fridge, or your hot water heater breaks, and then replace it. There's compelling reasons to replace these products because they seem to last forever, first of all. I think our fridge is going on 25 years now, And when it fails, there's so much more new technology available, and they're plentiful. We just simply swap them.
Right.
There are no more appliance repair shops in existence. That was my first job in high school, by the way, an appliance repair shop and radio shop. So it's a throwaway item these days, and there are certain types of products that you can follow that philosophy with. Now, your ICE car, do you want to wait until your engine seizes before you do an oil change? Maybe not. Roadsters are even more interesting. Roadsters are prototypes. They are full of engineering problems that manifest as they age. If contactors fail in a PEM, well, you lose some functionality and it throws errors. But if you don't replace your electrolytic caps that are aged beyond their 8-year lifespan, which filters high voltage and high current, by the way, in the powertrain, and they make the inverter work harder once they become resistive, which can then result in an overloaded power switching transistor bank, or banks, there are 3 phases. And when they short, they blow up, often destroying power boards and, worse yet, sending harmful voltages into logic boards. So let me show you what that looks like. This is an actual customer's car that had a PEM blow up, and this is what the logic board, or actually the DMC board, that's what it looked like after the PEM board or the power board blew up.
So we need to move that DMC board to your other monitor.
Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, there it is. All right.
And then you can maximize that.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. So you can see those chips there that are toasty, charred, and burnt. The one by Mark is a PIC processor. That's one you don't want to mess with either. So what happens is when you wait until a failure occurs, you end up damaging parts, boards, printed circuit boards that are no longer in production. None of these boards can be purchased. You can't get them from Tesla. You can't get them from, aftermarket. They're just not being made anymore because there aren't enough owners to justify independents like us to go out and have new batches made.
Right.
You can't order just one board from a board manufacturer. Pre-charge resistors is another good example. I'll show you that one. Let's see here. A pre-charge resistor, there are a series of them on the CIC board. And what those do is, there we go. All right, we're going to move that over to here. There are 4 of them. This one got so hot that it actually fell off the board. The solder melted, in other words. Again, we're getting back to the notion that the Tesla Roadster is a prototype. Not all the engineering problems were resolved. To the left there, I don't know if you can see that clearly enough, but there's discoloration there. That's the other side of the circuit board, which is scorched because those resistors get very hot and they begin to burn as they age. Then there's the fan Molex connector. Let's take a look at that one and see what that looks like. All right, bear with me here. No, that's not it either. All right, well, trust me on this one. This is the this is the PEM fan connector that's on the CIC board. And as a Tesla Roadster goes through its yearly annuals, they plug and unplug the connectors down below. There are 5 of them. And that particular 90-degree connector has what's called pin regression. And every time they push the connector back up in there, it then pushes the 90-degree portion on the CIC board back further and further, where eventually, instead of having good metal-to-metal contact, this is the portion, the socket portion, it begins to recede, and you get very little contact after a while on a connector that's already undersized. And that's why these PEM fan connectors burn up, by the way. So that's another item that is addressed during a PEM overhaul and a PEM upgrade. Not to mention all the other components that are aging and beginning to get ready to fail.
So it sounds like the idea is not just run it till it breaks, but you have to consider what happens if it breaks.
Well, exactly, yes.
And this is a case where if a PEM breaks, I've seen the results of a catalytic converter, that piece exploding.
Are you talking about the boards, the power boards?
Well, yeah, whether one of the IGBTs explodes or one of the capacitors explodes, and I mean it can take out the entire PEM.
Yeah.
So you have the potential for catastrophically bad occurrences
results. Yes.
as a result of not doing the maintenance. And remember, this is not just an electric vehicle thing. Our experience is not just from electric vehicles. Our experiences come from the critical power industry, where you have the same IGBTs. A PEM, a power electronics module in a car, is just simply called a power module in a UPS.
Sure.
And the same type of thing happens. A power module fails, and it becomes dramatically, it's a spectacular and dramatic explosion, and it takes out the whole thing.
Right. There's actually the image is there now, Jesse, if we can pop that up. Here's the inside of a power electronics module, which normally is almost sterile clean because it's close to hermetically sealed. This is the result of a electrolytic capacitor failure and all the debris that was then that traveled throughout this power electronics module. And here's another view of that. You can see how much deposited inside that PEM. And again, all the parts you're seeing here, except for that little fan on the left-hand side there, is out of production and will be, most likely for the life of the Roadster. So here's my answer on Bring a Trailer. The Roadster is currently stored at our EV Preserve exotic car storage facility, putting the notion that you have to spend $4,000 to $8,000 to get it shipped somewhere to bed. And it's available for viewing or for test drives, which is another advantage that people have if they have their cars here. And we put them on the Roadster matchmaking site. And we advertise and promote them, and people want to see the car. That happens about once a week these days. I then say the PEM is working fine. It has not yet been rebuilt, but this major electronic assembly is 16 years old and has aged electrolytic caps, decaying transistor insulating material, all waiting to fail. Tesla does not replace caps or this and other components like the 50 or so aged parts that we replace. So even if you get a power electronics module, a PEM from Tesla, it does not mean it's brand new. Even if it was, and for a while they had brand new ones that were on the shelf, by the way, the components have aged inside. The electrolytic caps are still 16 years old or whatever,
Right.
even though it's a brand new PEM, never been installed, right? Tesla does not replace caps. They do not replace the insulating material and other wear components. Their PEM program is used PC board swapping to get it working. We see many of these coming through our service center. And again, the notion of waiting for failure with an assembly full of boards, none of which are any longer in production, with high amperage switching at 400 volts, sometimes creates unrepairable boards. And I'll show you another picture of that. And this happens to be VIN 209, which has in the DMC board, let's see, there we go. Put the wrong one over. There we go. This is a multi-layer board. And if you can picture this, on a normal circuit board, on a simple circuit board, you have etches. You have etches on the top and the bottom, and they're clearly visible. You can see what's going on the board. In a multi-layer board, you have real estate that's covered up, that's in the sandwich, that's hidden. So what made this particular repair so difficult on VIN 209 was the fact that there was damage into the multi-layers of the board, and it eventually was deemed unrepairable. And so that's the reason that proactive maintenance is so important with a Tesla Roadster, especially the electronics or the power electronics module. Looks like we've got some comments here.
Yes, on YouTube, Thomas Curtis is back. Kia Ora from Aotearoa, Sexy Cars Rock, he says. And then on YouTube as well, Herbert Buter is back. Welcome, Herbert. Glad to have you here. Good morning, he says. Herbert from Dusseldorf here today. Look forward to an interesting hour.
Thanks for joining us, Herbert. TikTok. Look Goodman is, or Lloyd Goodman. Okay, there we go. What is the value of a Tesla Roadster? Well, we're going to get into that later on in the podcast
Yes,
here,
we are.
but they're going down right now. There's a glut, there's an oversupply, and there's some reasons for that, which we'll get into, so hang in there with us. Guitar with James says from YouTube, how do we get you guys to do more in-depth engineering stuff? It's on our YouTube channel. Go to Gruber Motors. And a lot of the shorts. Aaron, how would somebody tune into our shorts?
Well, they can go to our YouTube channel, like you said, the Gruber Motor Company. They can also go to Instagram, which is Gruber Motor Company as well, TikTok, and we also have Twitter or X too.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. All right. So, getting into the continuing with the bring a trailer comments. Here's another one, and I feel compelled to correct this one. There was some discussion about why this Roadster sold for $61,000. By the way, it did not meet reserve. We'll talk about that too, what their reserve, upper reserve level is, which makes it kind of dangerous to sell on Bring a Trailer. This comment was, more and more Roadsters are testing new lows, and a 3.0 no less, the replacement battery pack version. Absolutely correct, absolutely true. Then there's an opinion. Expect more of the same as the market sorts out how to price in the cost of pack replacements given the diminishing inventory of replacement sheets. Well, first of all, there never were replacement sheets for the Roadster available from Tesla.
Correct.
They never ever sold those. The only people that were able to accumulate some sheets were people in the independent space like us. And the typical scenario is a Roadster comes to us bricked. We then do life support. We take a look at all of the sheets, and it turns out that the service plug was left plugged in. The sheets and bricks had degraded to a point where some of them are no longer recoverable. But there are, out of 11 sheets, oftentimes good ones, many good ones in that pack.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not cost effective to replace all of the sheets that are defective. So what we end up doing with customers is if they're in that position, we recommend a replacement from Tesla. And we work very closely with a Tempe service center. There are at least one or two cars there any given point in time that are getting a pack replaced. We then tell the customer Tesla doesn't care the quality of the sheets or whether they're functional or not when we send them these packs. So
That's
if
right.
you like, we will remove your good sheets, put them in our battery bunker on life support, and keep them for donor sheets for customers that need maybe only one or two, which is still cost effective. And we have a large supply of those sheets on life support currently. We had one customer that we paid $2,400 per sheet, by the way, that ended up selling 10 sheets out of his pack. He ended up with $24,000 to defray the cost of his $40,000 pack replacement. So the notion that sheets are in short supply with us is not true. We have plenty. And then the final comment was, and an uncertain supply of new ones. Now, if this is referencing new ESS packs from Tesla, this is also not correct. We're finding that our queue system, and remember, we're the folks that years ago allowed people to put their Tesla Roadster, brick Roadster, into queue and fed that information to Tesla regularly. And it would take 6 months to a year to finally get their turn. These days, Tesla is right on top of it. In fact, we're scrambling to get the cars to Tesla quickly enough these days. So their ESS pack production capacity seems to have improved. So anyway, just to dispel some of these opinions, the queue is faster than ever before, and there are sheets available. And we work closely with Tesla on these. YouTube, Andrew Robertson says, good morning, Tesla technician here. Well, thanks for joining
Morning,
us.
Andrew.
YouTube, Guitar with James. He says, thank you for reading my comment. With that said, no thanks. I don't want shorts. I want the long form video on stuff like that. That short form content roots brains. Okay.
That's a good point. Now, some of the YouTube videos that we have on our YouTube channel are long form videos. So we don't have just the short form stuff up there.
Correct. Yes. All right. So we've got another image to pop up here. And this one was first made available last podcast. And this is regarding a Tesla Roadster with some really cool paint treatment there. If you notice, the side view mirrors are different color. There's some pinstriping going on there, a two-tone type. But the angel eye lights were probably the most exciting thing about this. And questions arose, who makes these angel eyes? Well, it turns out that they were done by a custom lighting shop in San Jose. The customer gave us some information. We looked them up. And the headlights were done by Extreme HID San Jose. It was a ton of work for them, he says, and they had to create a custom wiring harness for the extra wires because you have extra lights in that headlight now. The angel eyes, he says, activate with the parking lights. I didn't want a separate switch for these lights, and they flash amber with the left and right blinkers. He says, huge pain in the butt, but it came out looking great. And for those of you interested, there are most certainly other, lighting type shops, custom lighting shops. But this particular one is Extreme HID. They say they specialize in custom lighting for cars, boats, motorcycles, etc. HID, LED retrofitting. We also specialize in custom audio, video, security, as well as window tinting and on and on. So there's a little sales pitch there. But for those of you that like this, it's not out of question to, check locally to see if you have any custom lighting shops like this. All right.
A couple more comments we have. One from YouTube, Guitar with James again. He says he'd love more opinions on the Tesla Model S 2015 versus the Tesla Model S 2025. That's something that we can take a look at and get to our regular EV podcast and actually talk about a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that they have there have been a lot of incremental improvements over the years. Also, YouTube, Michael Aldea is joining us.
Michael, there you are. Good to see you again. He says, newer designs don't use capacitors. The DC to DC can be used to simulate how the capacitors are used. Fascinating. Well, that's definitely a benefit because electrolytic capacitors have they have an age, they have a shelf life. There's an expiration date to that. In the Tesla Model S inverter, the round, three-phase inverter, they still use capacitor banks in that, but it's one solid assembly. And we've been looking into how we're going to treat those aging because 2012 was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So those are also due for replacement. Now we have another image here. This is the
green.
I know what's happening there. This is a green Roadster with our green screen, which is going to key out that color. So we're not going to be able to see this green Roadster, but I can tell you about it. All right, so if you remember, we talked last Roadster podcast about VIN 99, signature Roadster VIN 99. How'd you do that, Jesse?
I got a lot of settings back here I have to mess with to make that happen, but we got it.
There we go. This green is custom. It's one of. The short story is the customer that owned this car lives in the Malibu Hills, owns some commercial property in Santa Monica. Martin Eberhardt came to him many years ago and said, we want to lease our first sales and service center from you. And he looked at their financials and said, no way, guys, you aren't solvent or even close. 2 weeks later, Elon Musk came out to see this customer and said, look, I know our financials suck, but I've got a satchel full of patents here I want you to look at. We're a real company, we have vision, and we're going to make it. So Elon, being persuasive, charismatic, all those things, convinced this owner to lease to him under some conditions. And the condition was that he sells them VIN 100, which at that time was already taken. So they settled on VIN 99. And he said, one additional requirement is not only do you need to sell me one of your signature cars, VIN 99, but you need to paint it the same color as my Bugatti in France, 1931 Bugatti. So this is a one-of color. It went up for sale a couple of months ago, and we were very concerned based on the recent glut of signature cars that we're selling.
Sure.
Bring a Trailer, within the last couple of months, sold a Signature 48 Roadster for around $70,000 and a Signature 56 car for $78,000. Way too low. And of course, this is another Signature car. So what we did was, we of course recommended, let's not go to auction on this one. Let's use the Roadster matchmaking site. Let us send the provenance and history and story on this car, the backstory, to the 460 pre-qualified Tesla Roadster buyers, and let's see what shakes loose. Turns out within 2 weeks, a customer came along from the pre-qualified buyer list who said, you know what? I'm Irish, and I love the color green, and I love this Roadster. They struck a deal. This car sold in this market for $110,000, which in the old market 2 years ago would have been way low, but it was definitely better than that $70,000 to $78,000 where the Signature Roadsters have been selling. The other unusual thing about this car, folks, is this is the only color in the Roadster lineup that actually has 5 colors. They are Insane Green, which there's only one in the United States, in Chicago, a bunch more in Europe, about 6 in Europe. Then there's Lightning Green, which came out only in 2011, Subaru color. Then there's BRG, British Racing Green, which is sort of a darker hunter green. Then there's the Signature Green, which was usually reserved for the very early Roadsters. It's a beautiful bluish, greenish type color.
Yes.
And then there's this car, which is the VIN 99 Green. Turns out this car was sold to the customer, or the new owner who lives here in Phoenix. So we're going to be seeing some more of this car. But the good news is that not all these cars need to sell at these ridiculously low prices, especially these collectible types like this. All right. Got another image to pop up here. Okay. It is the There we go. Shocks. All right. You may be aware that the original Bilstein Tesla Roadster shocks are no longer in production and most likely never will be.
Mhm.
For a long time, independents like us were rebuilding shocks, which has mixed results often. And we finally found a vendor that makes custom shocks for the last 50 years, actually, in the Netherlands, Intrax, who is making the performance version of the Tesla Roadster shock. It's the one with the little gas canister that was put into the sports Roadsters. And with the help of a German service organization, Conrad Buck, Mars Orbiter, they dialed in the correct specification, the correct damping, all of the things that go with the shocks to make the Tesla Roadster ride smooth again. Well, this is part of our inventory of the Intrax shocks. We go through a lot of these, and Intrax is actually improving this shock even further.
Really?
And they asked for our inputs, and we have some ideas how we can make the installation portion of these shocks even better. So look for an improved version here before too long. And in the meantime, I'll get some more pictures if you want to handle the
Absolutely.
comments.
We've got a few comments coming in. First, Thomas Curtis again commenting, saying, on the models S3, X, and Y, Cybertruck, Autonomous Robovan, we've got the Semi, Roadster, Optimist, and Compact. Yeah, there's finally getting to be quite a few models out there in Model S. Guitar with James on YouTube says, have you made an all-wheel drive Roadster? He says, also, I'm a fan. I think you guys could have success in talking about what young men should know about engineering, whether it's housing, plumbing, backup power, etc. It's for the guys for engineering. Electronics engineering is really the way to go for any EVs, because these cars, they're not just we've heard cars called computers on wheels. I would rather say that these nowadays these cars are computers with wheels.
With wheels, okay. Have another picture to pop up here, Jesse. It's the our new equipment in the tire center. We took our Coates machine and the Hunter balancer that we had before, and that's up for sale now. And we got some brand new Hunter equipment here. This balancer actually has a road force capability, which is that large drum that you see behind that shroud.
Mm-hmm.
And what that allows us to do is not only dial in the precise place to put weights, but it also then replicates the spinning or the rotation as these things are on the road. Initially, I thought, well, what is that good for? What it's good for is to find bent wheels, to find tire anomalies out of round, for example.
Okay.
You can balance all day long, but you may still have problems. And the guys are loving this thing. It is there's a computer screen. It even has the Tesla Roadster specifications in the software, which is also rare because remember, what were there 2,400 Roadsters built?
Right.
So for them to add this was quite remarkable. The tire machine to the right takes us up to 26 inches. So we're now able to do Cybertrucks, maybe even semis in the future, who knows? But we were limited prior to that to 21 inches. And then the final thing that is coming actually today is this product here. This is an alignment rack, or it's an alignment system. And we're going to be hooking this up so we can do alignments in-house.
It's about time for that one. I'm very excited about all this new equipment that has come in. It's very useful for our guys and expands the capabilities that we have.
Does indeed. Another thing we're going to pop up here. This shows a PPF application that has gone south. And I know we've talked about this a lot, but if you store your Roadster outside and you have PPF, you've just shortened the lifespan of that PPF dramatically. And this particular car was stored outside for a while. The problem then becomes the adhesive in the PPF begins to crystallize. And if it bonds with the clear coat, now you have a very difficult time removing it, if at all. It sometimes requires a repaint.
Sure.
This particular one is still responding to the removal process, but it's extremely very labor intensive. All of those little lines you see are actually fissures in the PPF. And so anyway, if you have PPF, remember, it's not for life. 8 to 10 years is about the lifespan, and then you need to consider having it removed and reapplied, or just removing it, period. All right. Let's see what else we have here. Yeah. All right, there we go. Trunk light. Many, many years ago, one of the Roadster pioneers, Tom Saxton, worked on a Roadster trunk light, which at that time in 2008 was an LED strip, which are still available but have improved tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
The way that he puts it, he says, I think the Roadster's trunk light is extremely ineffective. It's a tiny, dim, incandescent bulb that puts out very little light. And the other thing it does is, since it's incandescent, it will actually eventually melt your lens in the trunk. And if you have groceries back there, it's most likely covered up and it's not bright enough to do any decent illumination. They say that if the trunk is full, you're not going to see a thing. Everything will be hidden. Well, what he did was he found a way to put an LED strip on the trunk lid. And he said, after doing that, our trunk lights up like a tanning bed. You could sit in the trunk and read a book while wearing sunglasses. Any of you interested in Tom Saxton's adventures with this, by the way, he's on TMC. And if you look up trunk light strip, you'll get a whole bunch of information about that. But in the meantime, we're always looking for ways to improve our Tesla Roadster offering.
Mm-hmm.
The closest we came to actually doing something like this was when Raphael de Mestre's World Traveling Roadster was here, recognizing that, he needed a lot more light because he was always out and not typically in well-lit areas.
Sure.
So we ended up buying for him a trunk LED light. It was about this long that has actual magnetic tabs on it. So you can remove it if you want to take the light with you and shine it somewhere. And it just illuminated that trunk perfectly. What we're going to be doing now is we have about a half a dozen or so of these LED strips. We're going to find the most efficient way to hook that to that little LED in the trunk and then make that one of our Roadster offerings that's available. It won't be that expensive because there's not much material there, and the labor should not be that extensive. So look for that coming up in our next e-store offerings and the services
I'm
offerings.
sure there will be people who want that.
Well, we've hit our half-hour mark. Again, we appreciate you joining us. If you have any additional questions, feel free to email those to ev@gruber.com. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Thank you for joining us today.